Welcome to Finding Yourself with Christopher Dare, proudly sponsored by Lighthouse Coffee in Sparks, Nevada. Now let's join Christopher for today's message.
Hello, I am Christopher Dare, and we are here on Finding Yourself. And just a reminder of what that is, it's the idea that you get to lead in a fashion that maybe instead of going north, or rather going east or west, you just kind of find your own path. And it goes back to a time when I was younger and I was up on this mountainside and there was 3 paths and I was looking which way to go. And truthfully, as I looked down, there was an area that didn't have a path, and that's where I felt like the Lord told me to go. And I climbed down this hill, and as I got down there, I found the peace of knowing that, there's left, right, front, backwards, all those things. But the key is you got to stop and really look at where the Lord's guiding you, who you are, what you are, and make those decisions. And so we're talking about leadership. We're talking about different things of that fashion. We are at Lighthouse Coffee right here in the Sparks, Reno area. If you have not had their coffee, shame on you. You should check it out. It's pretty awesome. But they're our main sponsors for letting us use their place as we come together. We have talked a lot about conflict resolution. It's a big conversation for me. If you go back, you can look at the different series that's been up there. But we're going to shift, and it's time to go ahead and look into a few different things. And we're going to talk about priorities today. Now, everybody has priorities, and everyone tries to find ways to put them together. And a lot of times what people will do is they'll do a list of priorities. And I'm sure you've done this before. And there's nothing wrong with that. So you take and you put, what's at first, what's second, what's third, what's fourth, what's fifth, and you kind of lay it out that way. But the problem comes is, let's say I put first, I'm a Christian, so I put God first. And then, after that, I sit there and I put my wife. I've been married 30-something years, and I put her next. And then my kids, who I love dearly, are my grandkids, and then I kind of keep labeling it according to who might seem to be the most important things in my life. Well, it gets confusing when it comes to actually living that out. Because though I keep God at the center of my life, when it comes to making decisions each day, it's bigger than just deciding who's the most important. And so my wife, obviously, I value her more than any human on this earth. And as I look at that, though, if I got a phone call, if I got somebody coming saying, hey, I really need your help, and I was supposed to go on a date with my wife, and I tell her, honey, I think tonight we might need to go on a date tomorrow because my friend needs my help over here. Instead of her thinking that I don't prioritize her, she'd look and she'd say, okay, that's good, because we have a different way of looking at priorities. And so I know if you're listening to the podcast, you don't get to see my picture, but this is a priority wheel. And so we'll have this a little bit up on some of our video that we show. But a priority wheel is the idea if you take a circular wheel and you put that right there on your paper, and then at the center, you allow whatever is at the center of your life. What dictates your time, your schedule? And if you're being honest, you will find that there might be something at the center of your wheel you don't want there. But for me, I try to push on a regular time God at the center of my life. But there are times that I've put money at the center of my life, or I've put other things or titles or whatever, and they dictated what kind of things could be on my priority wheel. And that's what I'm calling this. And so if instead of putting a list, I'm going to challenge you to stop and think about everybody has 24 hours in their day, and what do you do with those 24 hours? Obviously, a big portion of that should be in sleeping, so you're taking care of yourself one way or another, maybe even eating, maybe even exercising, maybe even do something you enjoy. So if you're doing this right, you actually see that you have a huge priority in your life on this wheel. But as this thing is centered, if you put God or if you put money, whatever it is that's at that center, it actually helps dictate what else you put on that wheel. And so for me, I did this wheel, and this is one that I put together in 2023. So my wheel has changed, but at this point, in this time of my life, I was going after my doctoral degree, and I still am, and that has a portion of my time. My friends get a portion of my time, my family, my granddaughter, my marriage, my city council and the boards I served on at the time got a huge portion. I was the president of the Nevada Christian Institute and also the president of Nevada Veterans Memorial. So all these things got priorities in my life, and I even had a list of things that I wanted to put on there, but there just wasn't time yet. That's the best way, I believe, for you to look at your priorities. So you can take that list that you made and you can use it, but I transferred over to this wheel. Now, what I mean by this and why it's so important is that this list over here has not changed over the years. It's kind of a way of looking at what's important in your life. But when it comes to priority wheel, it gives you an idea in your day and your time and your season what actually has priority. And like for me, just 2 years ago, I found out I had a brain tumor. And when I found that out, everything kind of shifted quite a bit. You obviously can imagine if I'm going into surgery and they're going to take out something out of my head and I'm going to be on my back and have to recover and earn my left side back, that all of a sudden some of these things on my daily schedule are going to go off. I stopped worrying about going to school. I put that on pause. My friends actually started taking care of me. I couldn't do much for them because I was down and out. Same with my family and same with everything. My wife and my kids all came around me and I didn't have much to offer them because I really had to focus on taking care of me. Even I had to set aside my city council things just for a time to make sure I could focus on me. And over the years, I've got to earn some of that back, but my wheel looked very different. And so if you look at this, and again, if you're listening, I'm looking at a wheel, and I took that wheel and I sectioned it off like pieces of a pie, and this is what it was 2 years ago, but actually my life right now is way different than even what it was when I had surgery. So like right now, if I switched it up, I'm still on my doctoral degree. My friends get the time I can give them. My family does. My granddaughters, I have 2 now, get as much time as I can give them. My marriage, I'm not on city council anymore, so I can take that off. That's not my responsibility anymore. And so all these different things are happening, and as my life shifts, I put other things on this wheel. Now, something I want you to think about too, though, is what is at the center of that wheel. And the reason it's so important is that if you put money at the center of that wheel, you're going to find that your whole life is dictated around the pressure of making money. Now, some people say, that's great. That's what I want. I want to just make money. Well, in the very end, if you're just trying to make money, you might push some things off of this wheel because they're not that important to you. When I look at some of the things that I did for our city, I didn't make much money, but they were important to me. As I stepped on boards and volunteered my time, I didn't make any money. And so with that said, if it was all about money, then I wouldn't help with the Nevada Veterans Memorial. I wouldn't help with the Bible College. I wouldn't preach at a church for free. I wouldn't do a funeral for free because those are some of the things I bring to the table. Matter of fact, my grandkids cost me money. I wouldn't actually put a lot of effort into that because they don't make me money. Even my marriage, my wife spends a lot of money. If you meet her, you'll know what I'm talking about. She doesn't make me money. If anything, she spends the money. So if you look at this wheel, I don't want money at the center of that. Well, some people put titles. Well, the problem with that is that causes problems. Now, here's an interesting thing. I've seen some people put their marriage at the center of that wheel. Now, you might say, well, that's good. Your marriage is very important. We're going to make everything at the center of that. The reason that's not a good idea is, first of all, your wife or your husband never was meant to handle the pressure of holding you up as a foundation. You actually will crush them if you try to do that. But the other thing is they are a part of your life, but they don't dictate your life. I've seen some people put their kids at the center. Now, some people say, yeah, that makes sense because they're so important. Everything rotates around my kids. Well, I can get why someone would say that, but that's also a problem, just like with your wife or husband. It will crush them. My kids were never meant to fulfill my life, and they also don't get to dictate it. I actually get to lead my kids, and I get to show them what's right and wrong. I get to decide what kind of time I can give to them. So you got to put something at the center that actually makes sense, and to me, that is the Lord. Now, I've seen some who say, I'm at the center of my wheel. I make decisions, and I decide, and that's actually more true for most people than they like to realize. They actually push God out of the way and their faith out of the way because they believe they actually have the best answers. They believe they can look at it. I'm one that doesn't believe that. I think I make some very interesting decisions on my own. I think I'm selfish if I don't serve the Lord. I think if I'm not careful, I can run off in other directions if I don't put the right things at the center of this priority wheel. Now, as you think of this, you're going to have priorities every day in your life. You have 24 hours in this day. What will you do with it? What are you going to spend your time doing? Are you going to spend your time fighting other people? Sitting on social media? Are you going to spend your time staring at the news channel, hoping that you somehow can make somebody do something in DC? I'm not sure. And there's nothing wrong with you educating yourself. There's nothing wrong with you knowing what's going on. But I'd be careful where you put your priorities. If you line this out and you put that wheel, you might find that you don't have time for the most important things in your life. Taking care of you, the family, the friends, even going for a hike, spending time out in this beautiful place that has been given us. All those things are so good and so important. This priority wheel actually has changed my life because I come back and visit it very often. And I come back and say, what is in this new season of my life, what kind of priorities are really in my life? Now, if you're not careful, there are times that people really lie to themselves. They'll say, well, this is a priority, and this is a priority, and this is a priority. Well, if you look at your day or your week and you didn't make any time for that, let me tell you, my friend, they're not a priority. If you've not taken the time to invest in these things that you say are important, they are not a priority. Even if they're supposed to be, they might feel important to you. But if you say your marriage is important to you, well, what have you done to spend time with your marriage this week, today? If you say your kids are important, what have you done to spend time with them? If you say your friends are important, what have you done to spend time with them? If you say your health is important, it's a priority, well, what have you done for your health today? I don't know the answer, but I challenge you to look at that. And instead of looking at it as a list that may or may not be a part of your day, look at it as a 24-hour window and think of each day of the week. Do you have time for those important things to be in your life? Who dictates them? Who puts those together? And what are they? So it's a real exercise for you. I would sit down with you, put it together, and it's something that I believe can help shape you and shift you. Now, if you really want to have fun with this, take the priority wheel after you do it and give it to someone you love and ask them, is this the priorities you see in my life? You might not like the answer you get because sometimes we think we have certain things in place that really are not. So I'm Christopher Dare. I'm coming to you with Finding Your South. I hope that this gives you a little example of how to look at your priorities in your life, how to piece it together and make a difference. God bless you. I hope you have a great day. Bye. If you're looking for a great cup of coffee, right here at Lighthouse Coffee.